Perfect. Well, Joe, as everyone is slowly coming into this room, you are welcome to start. It's lovely to have you. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
Everybody, this is Joe from Give a Grad a Go, and they're going to be talking about kind of industry insights and what Give a Grad a Go do and various different things. So please engage, keep your cameras on, and there'll be time for some questions at the end, I'm sure. But yeah, Joe, over to you. Please crack on.
Thank you, Millie, and thank you again for the invite today. Delighted to be on with you all and to tell you a bit about us, give a grad a go, and then dig into a couple of bits of insight, what we can offer, and hopefully add some value to your guys' job searches to come. So let's begin. Who are we? Give a Grad a Go. So Give a Grad a Go, we are one of the UK's most successful and popular early careers specialists. We have been in business now for around 15 years. And in that time, we have grown from, a one-man band in their kitchen working on finance hires in the back of the financial crash to being a broad scope agency with a range of focuses on graduate and junior hiring expertise. We like to think that we work on such a broad focus from finance to fashion sectors and everything in between, and have worked with such household names to scale brands like Kazoo, most recently old money brands or larger, more established businesses like Rothschild as well, and some of the bigger brands that you'll see in telecoms engineering, Verizon, for example. And we've recently launched a campaign with Unilever through our brilliant marketing team. So yeah, we work with some fantastic brands and businesses in a whole range of different ways. We are, for you as candidates, a free service. You'll be pleased to hear not much is for free these days, and we offer opportunity for job application, but also being the competitiveness of the market, we are able to help you with your CV, with your interview prep, with guidance through resources that we have collated and built out over the years, which is all available for free, as I mentioned, on our website. So I definitely would urge you after this call to go away, have a look at the site, at the resource, see what it can offer you. So a bit about me. I am well, I've been with Give a Grad a Go for just over 6 years now. I joined as a graduate myself out of university, where I started in a very candidate-focused role, but grew into a consultant working with our clients directly. I run our tech desk, so most of the software engineering, support, DevOps, analyst roles that you'll see on our website, they are ones that I head up, me and my team, which is a really exciting market, one that you guys, I'm sure, will be aware as you are looking to enter that space over the coming weeks. So a bit about what we want to cover here today. So we'll dig into the industry that we see right now to give you guys a bit of clarity on the space, but also on the UK job market in general. The news is an interesting place to gain your understanding of how the market actually is. They have a tendency to catastrophize the state of play these days. So hopefully we have collated some information that is going to, again, shed that context to you. Also, talking about how you can set yourself up as a bootcamp graduate for success as much as possible and the best practice in terms of how to do that. And then running through a few questions that Millie kindly sourced from you guys, I think a week or so ago, a bit of our 2 cents on that. And then if there's time at the end, we can open the floor to questions. Of course, if nothing sparks from this session, please do follow up externally. We're always happy to chat and to go through, anything else, further down the line. So the UK job market, as we see at the moment, these stats don't make for the most exciting read. I appreciate that. At the risk of this becoming an economics lecture, which is not, I'll try and unpack it quite quickly and we can move on to the more specific stuff. But I think it's important to cover for context. So employment rate, 4%, unemployment at 4% is objectively great. less people are on the search. The most people are in employment at that level, but it does obviously coincide with less opportunities on the market currently, which we're seeing in the next stat, vacancies being 36% below peak. That peak is May 22, so off the back of what was a massive jump in the job market post-COVID, when people really started to move through the motions for hiring. There has since been that drop off, that contraction in the market over the last 2 years, and that's been felt across all industry. So tech is by no means an outlier there. It's not all doom and gloom. Actually, the figures over the last quarter are showing a dip in how that rate is following, and they're projecting even a leveling out of that, which for the recruitment industry usually corresponds to an increase in opportunities on the horizon across the board. So there is a lot more positivity than that one stat does perhaps suggest. And then finally, annual pay being down. I think that's important to put into a business context as well. Typically, we see a spike in roles when salaries aren't running away from the market. That coupled with projected interest rates for business to fall, recruiters are cautiously optimistic that there is going to be a positive change in the market going into 2025. We'll also just quickly mention the budget. We are literally 24 hours away from the UK government announcing their new budget, and they have been very vocal about wanting to support businesses across the UK and growing the economy, which should mean for some hopefully quite positive, concessions for companies across the space. So, yeah, we're seeing that KPMG run a study recently where they said the slowing of hiring activity that we've seen in September is expected as businesses apply the brakes to recruitment ahead of the budget. So this is very much part and parcel of the government about to do their thing, and hopefully to project that quite positively moving forward. I just want to bring one more stat to your attention, which I think is important because there is a lot of doom and gloom in the UK job market at the moment, and it certainly isn't what we are seeing from where we sit. So on a broad scope, the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, has raised their growth forecast of the UK to 1.1% for 24, which is incredibly encouraging. And for 2025, it's been raised to 1.5%, which, if that comes off, it would put the UK as the fastest growing European economy for next year. So a lot of positives, a lot of positivity that we should take going into the market over the next couple of months. On the tech side, the tech market, despite what you're hearing about AI and about the space contracting in general, is still an incredibly attractive and viable space to be in. Globally, you can see from that stat over the last 8 years, the number of developers specifically in that stat, but that does coalesce to analysts and other technical staff with the skills that you will have gained in your bootcamp, has only increased in this period of time. In the UK, the workplace for these skills is around a fifth of the total employed across the country. So it makes it, for a sector that is, plenty of growth and opportunity there for those who have the skills and who are looking to make a mark in this space. Like we said previously, every industry has struggled. Tech is no outlier, but it certainly isn't the one that has struggled the most. We're seeing, traditional finance or accounting, management, consultancy spaces, the ones that you think would maybe be more future-proof, they have struggled, if not more, which is encouraging for the tech space in general. More good news just to highlight off this screen. Tech salaries are one of the most competitive brackets. I'm going to bring some Give a Grad a Go data into this so far this year of the roles that we have placed, the hires that we've made in this space. It is the second highest average salary bracket at around 31,000 starting salary, second only to traditional finance and banking, which comes as no surprise. That's also backed by an independent report, that the University of Warwick did earlier this year that found that for the third year running, junior level salaries, starting salaries at the UK's leading employers has increased to around £34,000. So we're certainly not joining a space that has got limitations on the earning potential there. One last thing to highlight on this slide before we move on and talk more specifically about what this means for you is the context around the UK being a startup scene, or kind of, somewhere that is very much a heavyweight in the startup space, which has got a bit of negative press late, which from a recruiter's standpoint, from what we're seeing, is rather unfounded, actually. Data released earlier this week actually showed that the UK has maintained its status as Europe's most well-funded startup environment. So far this year, over $12 billion worth of investment has been allocated to startups and businesses across the UK, specifically in London, but hubs such as Manchester, Birmingham, etc., are also growing at a rate. This is double number 2 and 3 in that list, Germany and France, who both have invested 6+ each in their startups. So the UK really does pack a punch for its startup space, which for you guys, when a startup, scales, when it looks to actually action that funding, the first place that.
So may I interrupt you? Sorry, your presentation is blocked on one side.
Apologies. Let me reduce that down. Is that better?
No, it's still there. Now it's better. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Thank you.
So just to highlight those stats that were blocked by my talking face, much more important to look at those stats. The UK workforce, 20% employed in tech and engineering, as I mentioned. It's a massive market in the UK for the skills that you guys would have gained over the last 12 or so weeks. Every industry has felt the pinch over the last couple of weeks, but tech is no outlier and certainly not the one to be affected the hardest. So yeah, back to my last point on the tech startup space. Naturally, companies that look to invest in startups and invest in their teams there, tech, IT, analytics, etc., those are the departments or the roles that are always the first to be invested in. So again, we are very optimistic from where we sit as recruiters in this space that over the coming weeks, months, and going into 2025, the market is going to suddenly open and be a lot more buoyant than it is currently. So what does this mean for you guys? So there's a quick quote from the head of the REC, which is the recruitment committee internet for the UK, Neil Cranberry. He mentioned the picture of the job market is waiting for a signal. Recruiters are reporting that projects in client businesses are ready to go, but confidence is not yet high enough to push the button. The market in permanent roles declined somewhat in September, but more slowly than in the month before, which suggests that businesses are in holding position. And again, I'll circle back to the budget and to the government being ready to hopefully kick that off over the coming weeks. What this means for you, if the UK market for the job market is in a holding position, it gives you a window to really spend time on your applications and on your CVs and really tailoring them to the positions that you're looking to apply for right now, so that you have that content and you have that, that shiny piece of you ready to rock and roll once the market does start to pick up again. The use of AI is having an impact on the market on positive and negative sides of it. Positively, people are able to reach more applications. They can scale their recruitment journey by engaging with more companies, through generative searches and through, copying content that is just easily sent out to multiple businesses in one flurry. Negatively, though, a lot of this is done quite poorly, and the hiring team on the other side of the desk has access to the exact same technology and tools that a candidate will have, which makes the market being saturated with sometimes below par applications. Hiring managers are seeing that and spending less time per application when they can recognize that AI has somewhat been involved. I don't want to sit here and bash that tool necessarily, but what it does allow for is the time spent, that you can actually allot to and allocate an application really does increase the amount of time that an employer will look at it, will review it, and really take a chance to read between the projects and the information that you are looking to project to those potential employers. So it's a great moment to really shine your CV and tailor them to individual applications and to be as specific as you can at this stage. Supplementing CVs with cover letters, for example, when needed, or even just amending, word count or title to or personal profile to reflect even the specific nature of the role that you're applying for. Even such, a small change rather than a block web developer versus analyst role, that will have an effect, as the first line that a potential employee will read. The second point on this is to embrace flexibility. Now, whilst the permanent market for hiring is in that holding position, as the data and as the quote just mentioned, there is maybe a bit more resilience in the temporary market, being more freelance or fixed term opportunities. Usually the contractor market is, reserved for those with experience in the market for several years. But projects still need to be filled in a short and timely manner. Freelance projects become much more attractive, and reciprocally for you, that offers opportunities to keep those skills and information that you've gained and learned over the last 12 weeks or so really sharp. So we would definitely advise keeping an eye out for opportunities in that freelance capacity that might come to market. They tend to not be through the more traditional job board postings that you will see, but they are more community led. And we'll get onto the community in a little bit, but places like Reddit, places like Twitter, they're going to be fantastic places where you can engage with people who maybe just have 2 days work, finishing off a web page, a landing page, whatever it might be, that can maybe not monetarily satisfy what you need right now, but can build out skills and projects that are only going to transform your CV and those applications over the coming weeks. And I think the third point is really just to summarize what we've been saying throughout this piece so far is patience in the market at the moment. We are very much feeling like companies are waiting for that budget announcement tomorrow. So hopefully you don't have to be patient for too long. Hopefully the news that comes tomorrow is going to be, encouraging and positive. And that is going to be, firstly, the big companies that will take action from that, but then that definitely filters down to the smaller businesses. So again, exploring all avenues, and job boards and communities online are going to be really valuable for you here. So a couple of questions to run through, and these are questions that I think are led by you guys. Thank you, Millie, again for sharing a few of these themes. So we'll look to unpack them, but again, this is somewhat a whistle stop. So again, anything you want to take offline with myself, please do reach out as we can, spend a bit more time on it or share some more information here. And this is actually one that we see. The first question, if I dive into it, roles advertised as junior, expecting experience. This is one we see a lot, in the space of ads on LinkedIn, especially where they're saying entry level in the title, but then you read further and it says 5-6 years worth of experience. Well, how can they possibly add up? They don't add up. LinkedIn has a lot to answer for their policy on that, but we'll get to that. I think context-wise, it's really important to remember that hiring managers are always advertising and looking for that perfect fit, that perfect brief of a role, an analyst versus a developer that they need set skills or experience for. They advertise from my experience of working with these clients, they advertise on the assumption that they're not going to get everything that they're looking for. I sit in briefing calls where we're running through 5 or 6 job responsibilities, and I'll say, so what are the key criteria here? And they'll fixate on one, and everything else becomes a nice to have, despite it not specifying that. It's impossible to know, how many boxes need to be ticked before an application is progressed, or which box is perhaps weighted more than others. Ultimately, every application is going to increase your chances of securing an interview, and every interview experience will improve your odds at securing employment. So don't be deterred if you feel like a role is tailored to you in some aspects or not another, or not others even. Worth popping a CV through if you're feeling like you're adding more value than not. If you're really excited by 5 out of 6 of these responsibilities, that you have gained that experience through your time at the Wagon, then that's an application that I would encourage you take more time, in terms of tailoring your CV to really match or highlight those projects and that experience to those. So pragmatically speaking, the ones where you're seeing, more than half of those responsibilities ticked, despite the perhaps experience level allocated as not being quite where you are, it's absolutely worth putting an application in. There's always a lot of context behind the scenes that's important to note, with hiring criteria is changing a lot, budgets changing within businesses, when actually there becomes scope to hire more junior rather than senior, which you won't be aware of in the moment of application. The only way you'll get that context is to actually follow through and to put a CV in. And to try and be as resilient as possible in that space. You are going to receive a lot of automated emails that are going to say, thank you for your application, unfortunately not at this time. A lot of companies are waking up and changing their copy out, so they're providing a little bit more context as to why, if a role is to be filled or has gone elsewhere, that they tend to be a little bit clearer with that. But it is fundamentally a numbers game in that sense. So yeah, the more you can apply to, the more that's going to help your chances. I just want to mention LinkedIn quickly, because a lot of you, I'm sure, will be looking at LinkedIn for jobs. If you use Premium, then it will highlight certain roles that it thinks you're a great fit for, which may or may not quite align in terms of experience, but it will tick some boxes. And some of you might be put off or deterred to apply for something because a role says it was posted 4 hours ago and has had over 100 applicants in the last hour, and you think, well, I'm just going to get lost in the number of apps. But actually, that number is not always representative of the actual number of applications. Most of those companies aren't linked to that LinkedIn data. So when you click through to a company's web page, LinkedIn tends to log that number then and there without actually knowing if a candidate has actually applied. So if you're going through to a screen which is, managed directly by the host company that you want to apply to, take that over 100 applications in whatever with a large pinch of salt, because a lot of people will stop dead there or not complete the application. So the number is very much skewed in that sense. Okay, let's move on to the next one. So marketing yourself as a bootcamp engineer, seeing it as having no experience. I think that's not the way that the industry is looking at bootcamps these days. Actually, I think we are in a golden age of bootcamps in many senses. They have been an opportunity, a pathway for people retraining for long enough now, that has built up a competitive marketplace for providers of this content and of this training. And with that competition comes competency and quality teaching. As I'm sure you will have felt that from your time at the Wagon, and other companies will offer similar experiences or different experiences. Even 4 years ago, it perhaps lacked certain pedigree across the industry, but now the popularity increase, which is in all industries, boot camps have gained a lot of recognition. And the Wagon, as you guys will know from the application process from time there, it is one of the best, out there. Not wanting to blow smoke too much, but the projects you will have gained, the market-based projects, real-world application in those projects is going to be more valuable than some 2 to 3 years worth of theoretical experience that some universities these days peddle without wanting to name names. The global recognition of that for Wagon, I think, is a real great sell as well. So definitely don't devalue that skill and have that innate confidence in what you've learned over the last few years moving forward, because it is coupled with your enthusiasm for being a career switcher much more on the surface for employees to note. And having worked with employers and candidates from bootcamp or tech switch businesses and companies, it always impresses at that interview stage. So once you are in the room, you are winning and you are at an advantage from the more traditional tech like degree level background in some respects as well. Just a couple more questions that you guys shared with us. The lingo, being up to date with industry language, worried about seeming amateur when talking about code. It is important to speak the lingo, but it must be genuine. So I would caution balancing using terminology and jargon for the sake of it with actually a transparency of how much content you have and how much knowledge and confidence you have in talking about the subject. The quickest way to move past the amateur label is to be very open about the scope of your knowledge, be a sponge in the room, and to really use this opportunity to network in the communities through Reddit forums, through Twitter pages, and through the chain threads that you'll see there. People are going to be so much more generous with their time and their knowledge than you actually expect them to be. And the content that is there from people who have gone through processes with companies like Google and Amazon, but also startup firms and businesses that have a much more ad hoc or sporadic or unique way of hiring, is all going to be really useful information for you to unpack and to essentially use throughout your interview experience. The more you are having the confidence to at least try and knowing that maybe you are contextualizing incorrectly, but you will be put right, well, you're going to have that knowledge moving forward. So yes, it is important to use industry language, so long as you understand or you have that genuine clarity on what you are referring back to, and the openness that you're not going to be the finished article or have all that knowledge at this stage, and that's okay. People are and tend to be much more honest and genuine and positive in their time these days than is perhaps on the surface there. This last one, an industry standard on how to best prepare for technical interviews. Well, I touched upon it in terms of the community there, but there is a whole wealth of forums and knowledge out there how to best prepare for my interview upcoming with Google, for example. Companies that highlight the need for code review versus just kind of like code getting as much down as possible and then working backwards. Different approaches to how you might approach a technical interview. There will be context for pretty much any given scenario that you will find online. Use it, trial it, don't treat it all as gospel, pick and choose your strengths and what actually works best for you, but be aware of the plethora of information that is on your fingertips in that space. So what next? I think we've covered those questions as best we can in this limited time. And of course, to circle back to what I was saying, please do reach out and let's continue this dialogue if you had any other questions that we can be of any use to do. We've covered a lot, and I've thrown a lot of numbers at you, a lot of data which wasn't on the screen. And apologies if it's not all stuck. And again, I can share that offline with you guys as well. But firstly, to summarize this, there's a lot to say to be cautiously optimistic and positive about the job market as we near the end of 2024. It's been a challenging market. 23, 24 has seen a slowing of the negative direction of the market in IT and technology. So we are, as an industry, the recruitment industry, optimistic that we're at a tipping point, and with all being right with the government projects to boost business, we should see an improvement and a lot more opportunities coming to market as we go into the business end of the year and into 2025. We touched upon AI. I want to jump on to point 3 is you're entering a strong industry, but also you are absolutely in the right place, with your passion for the subject and for what you guys have achieved in the last, 12 weeks or so. Your confidence and your sort of, desire to be a part of this community is incredibly well founded. It does give you the edge over the more traditional areas of study in that sense. Gives you an advantage over different tools like AI in a lot of sense. It can be a tool for good, as we've covered, but also I think it definitely lacks a lot of fine tuning, which is definitely still a huge debate and on the national and international scene. Definitely don't have time to go into all of that. Be tailored and specific with your job applications as much as possible. It will always be reciprocated in kind, if not with something positive in terms of employment straight away, with advice and with detail there that's going to really help. And make sure you're exploring all the options. I would say, signing up to recruiters, signing up to sources that are going to help, job ads and job alerts on different websites and companies that you're excited by. And finally, sign up to give a grad a go. Our job board is a free service. We advertise roles, managed service through our clients, but also companies that just advertise through us. So you'll see a whole range of businesses and schemes that are at your fingertips for a quick apply. And our team are very ready to speak to you and help you as you move into this next stage of your career. So thank you guys for your time. Stop sharing my screen now, but I can make those slides available for you offline. And happy to answer any questions now if they wanted to come through, or again, I'm sure Millie can share with me any questions that we can put some answers together for you after this. So again, thank you.
Thanks so much, Joe. Thanks for joining us. That was really, really, really interesting. I found that interesting. I was listening along. So thank you. Does anyone have any questions? You've got some time. No.
I've got a question, but I don't know if it was answered because it was a lot of information, a lot of details. I need to digest it all again. But I agree with what you said about making applications tailored, but I don't want to be a negative person. But a lot of the things that I've read on forums and online is people generally like applying to like 200-300 roles before securing a job. Obviously, that's not the case for everyone. It's going to vary wildly, but I'm assuming you probably have to apply to quite a few jobs before you get to interviews, and then not all those interviews are going to lead to an offer. Like, in terms of approaching your applications, would you suggest then, as people looking for jobs, it's better to actually be selective then and to not maybe apply to so many, put more effort in? Obviously, you're going to be gutted when you don't get them. It's a guarantee that you're probably not going to get 100% of the jobs you apply for, and just go down that route? Or do you still think it's worth going for that whole volume approach of applying to a lot of things, and then it's kind of like once you get an interview, that's when you really start to focus? Because I guess traditionally that's what people used to do, isn't it? Is you'd cast a wide net. When you catch a few, that's when you start to then tailor your approach, if you get what I mean.
No, I
what
do.
would your opinion be on that?
Yeah, thanks for that question, Mustafa. And I think traditionally, especially when grad schemes were much more attractive and companies, really did put a lot more effort into those 2-year pieces, then it was a case of just, a volume piece, of as many applications as you possibly can, and you will eventually land something. As I said, I think at the moment it's a great time to be selective and to really, dig into each application with thought and care, and highlighting the projects that you've worked on that are going to be most recognizable or interesting for the particular employer. because the market is, like I said, it's been treading water, the more detail and the more time you can spend in the applications you see that you are readily interested in now, yes, you're not going to get 100% of those applications come through, but you are going to get more response rate, which is in terms of context and positivity in your candidate journey. Not knowing is worse than knowing. We always find that at least you have, clarity as to, okay, well, this role was filled. It wasn't actually my CV. We move on. That's not a negative, or this role has been filled, but thank you for your application. It was in line, bad timing, those sorts of things are really important. Also, it's a muscle memory thing. I think the more time you spend on tailoring your applications, the quicker you become at it, which obviously means when the market picks up, you can be a lot quicker at finding a middle ground between tailoring applications versus just, scattergun approach of sending out as many as possible, because you'll have that muscle memory of just, okay, I know the buzzwords, or I know the industry jargon that I need to, incorporate here, or I have 3 or 4 different CVs that I've tailored specifically for a role in web development versus front-end developments, or more just junior developer more generally, that highlights a broader scope thing here. So yes, I think a more specific approach right now is a really good time to do that, for sure.
Thank you.
No worries. I've seen a question in the chat from Tony for grad schemes. Are they only looking for fresh grads who have just graduated, or is there a cut-off point? There certainly shouldn't be a cut-off point, Tony. They should be not age discriminatory. The companies definitely should be aware of what the language and the advert that they are putting out there. Every ad you see now has got a little blurb about we are an equal, opportunities employer, etc., etc. So there is policy, and there is law protecting you from that, if that is the case, if you are a mature workplace, moving into a new industry, etc., or forgive me if I've got that terminology wrong. So there certainly shouldn't be a cutoff point for those who have just graduated, versus we do make sure that our clients here at Give a Grad a Go are very aware of that, and it's certainly not a route to go down when you speak to employers who just want an age discriminatory thing versus a fresh graduate. If you have recently finished a boot camp versus your degree, you are, we would say, at an even keel, or we certainly would expect our clients to treat it as such. Not sure if there's any more questions, but again, look, feel free to pop them through to Millie. Apologies to your inbox, Millie, if you're going to get lambasted now, or you can, when you register with Give a Grad a Go, connect with me on LinkedIn as well. Millie, I can share my email good gasp, I'm sharing my email. No, please do. I'll share my direct email so people can reach out to me and my team directly if they had any more specific questions on any of this information.
Nice, thanks, Joe. And I'm sharing the Slack message will be coming to all of you guys in about half an hour with some really good links that Joe shared with me before today. And I've already linked your LinkedIn to that too, so they'll have a direct link to your LinkedIn account, Joe. So
fantastic.
That will be going out shortly. It's already scheduled, and I'll also download this recording once we end the call as well.
Brilliant.
Well, if there's no other questions, a final thank you, Joe. It was really, really great of you to join us. Thank you for your time. And have a lovely rest of your Tuesday.
Thank you. Good luck to everyone on this call. Well done on completing your boot camp or about to finish, and hopefully get to work with you or speak to you at some point offline, in the job search. But good luck out there. Be positive, support each other, and we'll certainly support you if we do speak to you in the not too distant. So thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Cheers, guys. Bye.
Thank you.